Hi, Mark Robertson back with you on Mark Robertson Talks. Today's subject, Japanese auto manufacturing. That sounds exciting. Actually, it is. To me, anyway, it's fascinating how they make such quality cars and what goes into that, and how, in many people's opinion, they make better cars than U.S. car companies. Now, U.S. car companies make quality products, but in the opinion of many, the Japanese cars are superior at this point. And why is that the case? Well, many think it goes back to a gentleman named Edwards Deming. He was born in 1900 in Iowa, Sioux City, Iowa, and went to college. He was an engineer, a doctorate, and statistician. And after World War II, he approached a number of companies, telling them how he could improve their production and their quality. The companies were trying to come out of World War II and get the economy going again. But this was the United States of America. They didn't need to listen to this guy. They knew what they were doing. The U.S. led the world in production and manufacturing, so they didn't need to listen to him. So, long story short, he takes his ideas to Japan, and they did listen. And he basically could be considered the father of the Japanese juggernaut in their industry, and especially their automobile industry, and how they make such great cars. Why is that the case? Is it all about just engineering and very hard skills and things like that? Well, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. Yes, they need good engineering and they need to know how machines work and things like this. But it's, for the most part, about cooperation and continual improvement. It's about the people. It's about the people in these countries and companies and how they work together and come up with a great product. And the idea is that the guy on the front line is just as important as the manager, and they all work together. And we'll be talking about Toyota for the most part. I have some books about Toyota that we'll talk about, but it's a philosophy that's different from the U.S. companies. Here in the United States, it's kind of the employees versus management and the unions and things like this. Now, they've been successful, the car companies in this country, for many decades, although they've gone through some hard times. And most of it has to do with their manufacturing processes and the environments in these companies and how they are run, and has not much to do with the economy, actually. Yes, that does have some effect. Things like even the healthcare system or the healthcare insurance that these car companies have to provide, that's a great burden to them. But that's a story for another time. But it's largely about the manufacturing system and the cultures in these companies, the people cultures. And that's the big difference. And Edwards Demings brought these ideas to these companies in Japan, and they listened. And long story short, you've got all these great Japanese car companies, especially, building great products being sold all around the world in high demand. And they continue to make great products. And Edwards Deming, he had 14 points that he put forth in his ideas. Ironically, we'll be talking about the 14 points with the Toyota company shortly as well. But here are those 14 points that we'll go over. I don't like to read a lot on this podcast, but we'll be mentioning them here. We'll read these. First of all, number one, create constancy of purpose for improving production and services. Adopt a new philosophy. Don't be afraid to turn the page. Always be looking for better ways to do things. Cease depending on inspection to achieve quality. In other words, do it right the first time. Yes, you can inspect things, but don't depend on inspection. It has to be done right the first time. In the practice of awarding business on price alone. Instead, minimize total cost by working with a single supplier. Improve constantly and forever every process for planning, production, and service. So it's about continual improvement. There's an infinite way to do things, and you get all the minds of all the employees working together. It's amazing what you can come up with. Even people who are not highly trained with engineering backgrounds, some of the simplest ideas are some of the best. The frontline employees or associates see how things can be done better, and they implement their ideas. There's so many times that happens, and that's why there's continual improvement. There's always room for improvement. And institute training on the job. It's continual training. Yes, you got to know the nuts and bolts of how a car is made. That's for sure. But it's also an idea of they don't have all the answers. They listen to the employees or associates on the front lines as well. So it's continual training, continual learning, continual flourishing of ideas that improve the process. Adopt an institute leadership. So in other words, the leadership is different. It's not a command down, top down command type situation. It's a cooperation type situation. Now that doesn't mean people can slack and not do anything, and that means people will not have to be guided in the right direction at certain times. But number 8 would be drive out fear. That's related. Now, a lot of people here work at jobs, that's even in U.S. car companies, there's this fear, you got to do this right, we got to get this done, there's such pressure. Now, there's pressure in these companies as well, but fear gets in the way of getting things done. And you got to see things clearly, and fear definitely gets in the way of that. If you see things clearly, you can come up with solutions. And like I say, fear disrupts that greatly. And break down barriers between staff areas. In other words, cooperate. Things overlap and work together. It's a synergy that comes from this. And people working together don't compete with the other staff. There's nothing wrong with competition, but it's not about putting the other people down. It's a win-win type situation. So everybody tries to pitch in and work together, and it's the sum is greater than the parts, I get to say. And this is an interesting one. Eliminate slogans, exhortations, and targets for the workforce. I mean, how many companies do that? They got all these slogans and all these sayings that motivate people and things like that. Evidently, Demings think this is kind of a false motivation. He wants people to be actually motivated by the real work happening and the craftsmanship and things like this. And eliminate numerical quotas for the workforce. That's another thing that goes against the grain. You hear about all these companies putting forth ideas and they want to reach these goals and how they do it. And they got to shoot for a goal, a very specific target. Well, Edwards Deming, who has a great track record now helping these companies, says that's not the way to do it. And he says, remove barriers that rob people of workmanship and eliminate the annual rating or merit system. So once again, he would obviously not have employees of the month at his operations and things like this. So he said the work basically is the reward in itself, the craftsmanship, pride in craftsmanship. And don't let anything get in the way of that. Emphasize that. And institute a vigorous program of education and self-improvement for everyone. So it's ongoing. Like I say, the training and education doesn't stop. And there's always better ways to do things, but there's outside information as well that can be combined with that and better ways of doing things. And it all works together. And then put everyone in the company to work in accomplishing the transformation. So everyone is important. Every single person, from the janitor to the guy on the front lines, and everybody is basically, I say, equal. Well, not everybody gets paid exactly the same thing, obviously. But basically everybody has the role is just as important as everyone else's. Whether you're on the front line, whether you're the janitor, whether you're the work in the cafeteria, whatever you do for this company, you're very important, and you're a very important part of the company and the overall mission of creating a great product, in this case, great automobiles. And so, like I say, this is how these companies got started in Japan, and now they're in the United States. They have Toyota factories, Honda factories, and other companies, Japanese car companies in the U.S. I've toured at least 3 Toyota plants, I believe, and it's very fascinating. You see these people in these plants; they're very happy. Now they're non-union, and they don't really have a problem with that. They work together. As a matter of fact, they don't really want the unions. They feel that they're happy. They may not make quite as much or have quite as many benefits, but the overall satisfaction of working there outweighs that by a long shot. And they're very happy in these companies. You see these people, you go through these companies, they're on these trams and you're waving, they all seem happy. I know It's nothing's ever perfect, but it seems like it's a very good place to be a part of, to be an associate at these companies. And they seem very happy to work there, and they really feel a part of the mission. Everyone knows that they have something to contribute and that they will be listened to. And, they don't even fear that an idea might not be good. They can push them out, and it may work, it may not work, it may not even be accepted. But they see things and how they can be done, and everybody in there has a contribution to make, and they want them to do that, and they're a part of the process. And there's this famous story about they can stop the line on manufacturing the cars if there's a problem. Anyone can do that. You just reach up and pull this cord, and it'll stop it. And they say they do that at the U.S. car companies as well, but you better hand stop the lines, from what I understand. I've talked to people who work at the U.S. car companies, and for the most part, they're not really happy in their jobs. And I'm sure there's exceptions, but there's not a great environment at the U.S. car manufacturing companies. They produce cars. They're good cars. I'm not saying that at all, but the environment at these places, from what I understand, is not the greatest. And it's not a happy working place. Yes, they're union. Yes, they get paid well. They get all this health insurance and all this that the companies have to deal with. But overall, the synergy is not there. They just go and do a job. They don't really feel part of the organization. They don't make a contribution. They go in and put in their 8 hours a day and go home stressed out and usually not happy, unlike the Japanese car companies. So that's the big difference. It's the human element is the big difference in these companies. Now, yes, you got to know the nuts and bolts and all these other things, but the way the people are treated and the way management treats the employees, it's about the culture. It's all about the culture, and that's what it is. Of course, it's about continual improvement, and you have to have respect for people. You respect your fellow associates and the people you work with. And like I say, nothing's perfect. People have good days and bad days, and people are feeling good on some days and not on other days. But overall, it's the direction of people supporting each other, wanting the best for each other, people working there wanting the best for their company, wanting to make the best cars they can possibly make. And they keep contributing to that mission, and it keeps changing, keeps improving. There's infinite areas for improvement, and it's all about a continual improvement and working together with people to do that. And Toyota and Honda are famous car companies. Today we'll talk about Toyota. They've also got 14 points that they go by. I got this book, Toyota Culture, The Heart and Soul of the Toyota Way, by Jeffrey Liker and Michael Hoseas. And I'll also read these 14 points. It's very interesting that this is what they go by. And the 14 principles of the Toyota Way. Number one, base your management decisions on long-term philosophy, even at the expense of short-term financial goals. Number two, create a continuous process flow to bring problems to the surface. Talk about things, get it out in the open, and talk about better ways to do things. Keep it going. Don't hide anything. And use the pull system to avoid overproduction. That's the system that Toyota uses. I'm not real familiar with that, but they've got all these things like just in time and all this other stuff that they've got figured out down to the second on how to do their manufacturing in an efficient way and have the people there doing it and being a part of it and seeing how it is operated. And level out the workload like a tortoise, not a hare. Build a culture of stopping to fix problems to get quality right the first time. In other words, they don't rely on inspection either over that much. And number six, standardize tasks and processes as the foundation for continuous improvements and employee empowerment. So yes, car making, you have to have standardized processes. Cars have to work a certain exact way. You're going down a highway 70 miles an hour, you want things to be exact and work properly. So you got to do things right. And so number seven, use visual controls so no problems are hidden. And use only reliable and thoroughly tested technology that serves your people and processes. It's a technology game. That has to be right. But it starts with the people again. And number nine, grow leaders who thoroughly understand the work, live the philosophy, and teach it to others. So again, ongoing. everything is ongoing. It's ongoing improvement, ongoing learning, and it's just a process that never stops. It's not a static situation where you go one day and you do this all day. Every day is about improvement or making things better or doing things a better way. And it's always about that. It's not static, like is the case at many of the U.S. companies. And develop exceptional people and teams who follow your company's philosophy. And respect your suppliers by challenging them and helping them improve. So your suppliers are part of the team as well, even though your company may not specifically own them. Who you work with, have the same attitude towards them. Listen to them, give them advice, but listen to their ideas as well. They may contribute to the company too. Suppliers are a major factor. You got to have the supplies to make the cars. And so that's part of the process, getting the supplies there, the right supplies, the quality supplies. It's all about communication, talking with people, wanting people to succeed, about win-win situations. And it's about making, in the end, a high-quality car, but what goes into it. And it's about the people. It's about talking. It's about keeping things out in the open. And number 12, go and see for yourself to thoroughly understand the situation. So in other words, the management team, they're always on the front line as well. They're not up in their ivory offices, for the most part, ivory tower offices. They are down there on the front line listening to the frontline associates and their ideas. And they got to go and see it for themselves. They just don't want to read about it or hear about it in meetings. They want to be actually on the front line and dealing with situations. And number 13, make decisions slowly by consensus, thoroughly considering all options, and implement decisions rapidly once those decisions are made. And 14, become a learning organization through relentless reflection and continuous improvement. And the famous one, they have a number of terms for a lot of these ideas, but kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N, is one of their most famous terms that they use there. And it's basically what we've been talking about. It is, we are relentless in our pursuit of improvement, never easily satisfied, constantly making improvement efforts, and steadily encouraging innovation. So innovation, it's all about innovation and ideas. I'm sure 5 years from now, Toyota cars will have many more innovative ideas. You know, they also have another idea. They don't just like to pile on things, all kinds of trinkets and gadgets. Everything has a reason, a function, something elegant, and it's so deep. And the Toyota, it's a constant learning process because you may think that you've got it figured out, but even the people that have worked there a long time are still learning about the corporate environment or the human environment at Toyota. And the founder of Toyota had an interesting statement. He said that each person fulfilling his or her duties to the utmost can generate great power when gathered together, and a chain of such power can generate a ring of power. So it's basically what we talked about. It's the sum is greater than the parts, people working together, their ideas, their minds coming up with ideas, and pretty simple idea, but it works every time. And it's about people working together for better results and for the mission of creating a great automobile that will continually be improved in years to come. And it's all about that, about people working together. It's not about individuals going in and doing an 8-hour drudgery every day and then going home and having all the decisions being made in boardrooms and ivory towers. It's about everybody working together for the same mission: continual improvement, continual learning, and continually trying to make the best car they know how to make. And another gentleman with Toyota, his name is Katsuaki Watanabe, the president of Toyota Motor Corporation, at least when this book was written. And he gives a statement here, and it's kind of interesting, which is what we talked about. You never really stop learning about Toyota. And he said, just yesterday, I spent a whole day with 30 of our young executives. At least 50% of them were from outside Japan. They had broken up into teams to tackle different problems, and they made presentations based on what they had learned about using the Toyota way to tackle them. When asked, many of them said that they were now able to understand the Toyota way fully. That's totally wrong. 2 or 3 months isn't long enough period for anyone to understand the Toyota way. The managers may have understood what's on the surface, but what lies beneath is far greater. I asked them to explore that. There's no end to the process of learning about the Toyota way. I don't think I have a complete understanding even today, and I've worked for the company for 43 years. And so yes, it may seem simple on the surface, but there's so much more to it. And it's, in the end, you come up with a great automobile. But there is so much. I mean, this book here is basically, it's well over pushing 500 pages, over 500 pages of policies and ideas. I mean, we're not going to speak of scratching the surface. It's so detailed and so much goes into it, creating a car. And they're so detailed on little things, on very little things and ideas that are important. And like I was saying earlier, it's not just about cramming all kinds of gizmos and technological gizmos into a car. Everything has a purpose. Everything is part of the idea that they want to create a great experience in driving a Toyota automobile. And it's the same with Honda and the other companies that make cars as well, Nissan, and they're all similar. Another book here, The Elegant Solution, a great book, the Toyota's Formula for Mastering Innovation by Matthew May. And it talks largely about, they have the Lexus, and what a great car that is, and how they designed that, and how they want to make essentially the perfect car. No car is perfect, and there's constant innovation and change in that as well. But it is just amazing at what they emphasize. You know, they even, of course, they want to listen to customers. You always have to listen to customers. They're part of the team effort as well, and what the customers want, and you get input from so many sources. But they also say you got to keep your childlike curiosity, things like that, in designing these cars. And they're just really wonderful automobiles, and the things that, how they encourage innovation. It's basically simple. Just keep your innocent type of thinking, and how that's the way to come up with great ideas for making wonderful, elegant cars. And the Lexus surely is, as well as are all of the Toyota products. But the Lexus is their top of the line car, and it's their luxury car, and it's a wonderful vehicle. And this book, like I say, talks about how they come about that, and how it is detailed. It's just amazing. I'm gonna have to read it again. There's so much to it. And now these also the Toyota way can be transferred to other areas. I mean, even they have books on how, in various manufacturing in other ways, even in healthcare, things like that. So these ideas can be used in just about any type of business or organization. It doesn't have to just be auto manufacturing. It's about the people. Every company is about the people, whether it's a technology company, whether it's a farm, whether it's a school, whatever it is, a hospital. It's about the people and how to best come together and improve ideas. I mean, I'm sure in a hospital you have all kinds of people there. The nurses and everything else know how things can be done better and how to do things more efficiently. And yes, it's about leanness and it's about cost savings, but that's just almost a symptom. I mean, that's what happens. It's not their ultimate goal. We talked about when Edwards Deming, it's not about quotas or things like this. It's about actual doing the work and making quality of the work, quality craftsmanship, or whatever line of work you're in. So, like I say, we have just basically scratched the surface. And we talked about the U.S. car companies and why they're not as good as the Japanese companies. And like I say, U.S. cars are good cars, but it's not, they don't compare working at a place in the U.S. I mean, you have the same, there was a story about a company, a GM company in California, and how Toyota went in there and redid everything. And it was like the worst producing GM plant in the country. And they turned it around. So it's not the people, basically with the same people. It's not the people. It's the system. It's the environment. It's the culture. It's all about culture. And it can be done, in any type of business or operation if the culture improves. And this is, like I say, about making cars, but it can be about anything. It can even be in government. I mean, you got all the bureaucracy there, but obviously it's bloated and things like this. But these principles can even go there. That would be like pulling teeth, but it would be hard to transform that. But ideally, that could be done there as well. So it's a system. It's about making cars, but it's about people working with people, trying to improve situations, and it can be done in just about. It can be done in anything. Even a single person entrepreneur, a sole proprietor, he can put these things to work because everybody has customers and things like that you listen to, and you can get ideas from other people. So it can be done on so many levels, whether it's a major corporation or a very small business or even a sole proprietorship, one person business. It's great advice. And like I say, once again, the Toyota culture, the heart and soul of the Toyota way, by Jeffrey Liker and Michael Zayas, and The Elegant Solution by Matthew May. Very good book to learn about. And I got one other book here. This is a book that's been around a long time from the 80s. It's called Theory Z, and it basically says how U.S. companies can follow the Japanese model and improve companies as well. But it's called Theory Z by William Uchi, and it's very good as well. But there are answers. You have a thing called Marxism, and it's always about, he comes up with ideas that it's about the worker against the owner. Well, that doesn't have to be. It can be all working together. It can be a win-win situation for everyone. And the Toyota way, the Japanese model, and Edward Deming prove that. It's about a win-win for everyone. That is possible, whatever business you are in. And we thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time on Mark Robertson Talks.